The summer heat was still thick in the air, even as the sun began to dip below the horizon. Outside, children's laughter echoed faintly down the quiet suburban street of Columbus, but inside our house, tension hung as heavily as the humidity. I sat at the dinner table, exhausted from juggling 2 jobs, yet trying to hold my family together in my own way. I was the one who paid the mortgage, picked up the groceries, and made sure the bills were covered. But tonight, none of that seemed to matter. My parents, Richard and Patricia, barely looked at me. Their eyes were fixed on Lucas, my younger brother, who casually shared stories from his college life as if we were the most interested audience in the world. I tried to contribute a small victory at work, a new project I was leading, but my words were met with polite nods and quick changes of subject. It was as if I was invisible or worse, a burden. When Patricia finally spoke, her voice was sharper than usual. "You never appreciate what we do for you, Madison. You're so caught up in your little world, you forget what family means." I looked down, fighting back the rising frustration. It wasn't about appreciation, it was about respect. But I knew better than to argue. Instead, I focused on the cool surface of my plate, the faint smell of roasted chicken doing little to soothe the knot tightening in my chest. Richard slammed his fork onto the table, breaking the silence. "Ungrateful. That's all you are. Maybe it's time you remember there's a door and you can walk out of it." His words were a blow I didn't see coming, yet somehow they felt like the truth that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. The accusations, the dismissals, the endless comparisons to Lucas, all culminating in this moment. I didn't say a word. I gathered my things slowly, deliberately. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from a fierce clarity. The house that had been my shelter suddenly felt like a cage. "Get out!" Patricia's voice cracked, laced with anger and disappointment. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Okay," I whispered, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving an emptiness that echoed louder than any shout. Outside, the street was still quiet, the evening calm, unaware of the upheaval it had just witnessed. As I stood there, bags in hand, I couldn't help but wonder, what did the future hold for someone who had finally decided to walk away? In that silence, I felt a strange mix of fear and hope, a seed of something new beginning to grow. Because sometimes it takes losing everything to start truly finding yourself. Leaving home wasn't the defeat I'd expected. Instead, it felt like the first breath of freedom after years of holding my breath underwater. My new apartment was small, barely enough room for a bed, a worn-out couch, and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a dorm. The walls were plain, the floor creaked, and the windows let in a cool autumn breeze that smelled of fallen leaves and distant rain. It was quiet here, too quiet, sometimes, but it was mine. The first few nights were the hardest. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the city far below. There was no arguing voices, no sharp words cutting through the air, but the silence felt heavy, almost unfamiliar. Loneliness wrapped around me like a thick blanket, reminding me how much I'd lost, and how much I still had to find. Emma, my best friend since college, was my anchor. She called almost every day, checking in, listening without judgment. "Madison," she said once, her voice gentle but firm, "sometimes we need a little help sorting through the mess inside. Have you thought about talking to someone? Like a therapist?" I hesitated at first, the idea feeling foreign and fragile, but the weight in my chest was growing and Emma's encouragement was steady. I found myself dialing the number of Dr. Chin, a therapist she'd recommended, and making my first appointment. Balancing two jobs while trying to rebuild my sense of self was a juggling act. Days blurred into nights, marketing projects at my main job, long shifts at the retail store on weekends, stolen moments of quiet to breathe and think. The small apartment often felt cramped, not just in space, but in possibility. Yet, amid the chaos, tiny sparks of hope flickered. One crisp autumn morning, I received a call inviting me to interview for a position that could change everything. Mr. Anderson, the hiring manager, was interested in what I had to offer. For the first time in a long while, I dared to believe that this opportunity might be more than just a job. It could be a new beginning. Sitting on my threadbare couch, clutching the interview details, I let the quiet seep into my bones. Could this be the turning point I'd been waiting for? Or was it just another fleeting chance in a life that had grown too complicated to trust? As the sun set outside my window, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I realized one thing. Leaving wasn't just about escaping the past. It was about stepping into a future I still had the power to shape. The last person I expected to hire me was my parents' boss, but life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. Early 2020 found me stepping into a sleek, modern office building in downtown Columbus. Glass walls reflected the bright morning sun, and the buzz of busy professionals filled the air. My heart pounded with nervous excitement as I adjusted the strap of my bag and took a deep breath before entering the lobby. This was more than just a job interview. It felt like a lifeline thrown at the perfect moment. Mr. Anderson, the man behind the desk, greeted me with a firm handshake and a warm smile. Despite my initial awkwardness, fumbling over words and stealing nervous glances, I could tell he saw something in me: determination, resilience, and a quiet strength born from hardship. Throughout the interview, I focused on my skills, my experiences, and, most importantly, my eagerness to prove myself. When I left, I wasn't sure if it had been enough, but the weeks that followed changed everything. Starting the job was both thrilling and intimidating. The office buzzed with energy, coworkers chatting over coffee, clicking keyboards, and brainstorming ideas in glass-walled conference rooms. I found myself learning new systems, taking on projects that stretched my abilities, and slowly, step by step, earning the respect I'd craved for so long. Each small success was a balm to the wounds left by years of family dismissiveness. Yet, beneath the surface of this new life, there was a lingering complexity. Working for the same company as my parents, and under the very boss who had hired me, brought a strange mixture of pride and discomfort. I caught myself wondering if my family knew, if they were surprised, or maybe even threatened by this unexpected turn. The very people who once belittled my efforts were now unknowingly linked to my success. Then came the day I delivered my first big win, a marketing campaign that exceeded expectations and brought invaluable new clients. The praise from Mr. Anderson and my colleagues filled me with a sense of accomplishment I hadn't felt in years. It was as if I was finally stepping into the person I'd always wanted to be: confident, capable, and worthy. Just when I thought I could breathe easy, my phone buzzed with a message from an unexpected source: my parents. The screen lit up with their names, and my heart skipped a beat. What did they want now? Was this a genuine attempt at reconciliation, or a reminder of the past I was trying to leave behind? Life had thrown me a lifeline, but the tangled threads of family and past still pulled at me, reminding me that some battles were far from over. A simple text from my parents asking, "Why haven't you paid the mortgage?" hit me harder than I expected. It was just 6 words, cold and demanding, but it knocked the breath out of me as though a storm had suddenly rolled in through my peaceful sanctuary. It was spring 2021, and sunlight spilled gently through the sheer curtains of my cozy apartment. The soft warmth outside contrasted sharply with the chill settling deep in my chest. I stared at the screen, the message blinking patiently, waiting for a reply I wasn't sure I wanted to give. Memories flooded back, the sharp words at the dinner table, the nights spent drowning in exhaustion from juggling 2 jobs, the endless guilt piled on me for trying to keep a family that never seemed to appreciate my sacrifices. They had told me I was ungrateful, told me to leave, yet here they were, reaching out only when the money ran dry. Emma sat beside me, her hand a quiet comfort on mine. "You don't owe them anything, Madison," she said softly, her eyes steady and full of understanding. "Sometimes the hardest love is protecting yourself. Remember, you deserve respect, not just when it suits them." Her words were a balm, reminding me why I had left in the first place. I needed to stand firm. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about boundaries and self-worth. I picked up the phone and dialed. The call connected, and soon Richard's voice filled the room, tired, pleading, but still laced with that old insistence. "Madison, we're behind on payments. We need your help. This house means everything to us." "I remember what this house meant to me," I replied calmly. "It was where I was told I didn't belong, where I was made to feel like a burden despite everything I gave." There was silence, heavy and uncomfortable. "You don't understand," Patricia's voice broken, shaky. "We never meant to push you away. We just needed time. I respected your wishes when you told me to leave," I said firmly. "But I won't let myself be pulled back and only when you need something. I'm not your ATM. I'm your daughter, and I deserve more than demands and guilt." The call stretched on, their voices pleading, weaving guilt and desperation, but I stayed steady. My resolve was stronger than the old ties that tried to bind me. When I hung up, the sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room. I sat back, breathing deeply, knowing that standing up for myself wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Would they ever truly respect me? That question lingered, unanswered. But for now, I had reclaimed my peace, and that was enough to keep me moving forward. In life, sometimes the hardest battles are fought within, I whispered to myself, but standing firm in who you are is the greatest victory you can claim. Breaking free meant more than just leaving home. It was about reclaiming who I truly was beneath the weight of years spent sacrificing for a family that barely saw me. By summer 2022, the small apartment that once felt cramped and lonely had blossomed into a home filled with sunlight and quiet joy. The walls were adorned with new artwork, and the soft hum of city life was a comforting soundtrack to my mornings. At work, things had shifted dramatically. Mr. Anderson, who had taken a chance on me when I least expected it, became more than just a boss. He was a mentor who recognized my potential. The promotion I received wasn't just a title change. It was a validation of my hard work and resilience. Each day I walked through the gleaming glass doors of the office, I felt a growing confidence that had nothing to do with my past burdens. Company events became a new arena for growth. I mingled among colleagues, sharing laughs and stories, slowly weaving myself into a community that valued me. The nervousness that once gripped my chest began to loosen its hold, replaced by genuine connection. Emma was often by my side, her encouragement unwavering, reminding me that I was deserving of happiness and belonging. Therapy sessions with Dr. Chin deepened my understanding of the patterns that had shaped my life. Through her gentle guidance, I started to unpack the heavy layers of guilt and obligation, learning that self-worth isn't measured by how much you give away, but by how kindly you treat yourself. This healing was slow and sometimes painful, but with each step, I felt lighter. And then, there was this subtle shift in my heart, a soft opening to the possibility of new love. A colleague who made me laugh, who saw me beyond my resume and my past. It was tentative and cautious, but it was a reminder that I could still hope for more than just survival. The pinnacle of this chapter came during a summer company party held on a rooftop overlooking the city skyline. Surrounded by twinkling lights and the hum of celebration, I felt proud. Proud of how far I'd come, proud of the woman I was becoming. For once, I was not defined by family drama or sacrifices, but by my own choices and triumphs. Just as I lifted my glass to toast with friends, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call. The moment of joy paused, hanging in the balance as I stared at the screen. Who could it be? And what news would it bring? Life was reminding me that the past never fully fades, but now I was stronger than ever to face whatever came next. Sometimes, the hardest love is letting go of what you can't change. As the soft glow of the late 2023 sunset filtered through the windows of my peaceful apartment, I finally reached a place of acceptance I hadn't thought possible. Family, I realized, isn't just about blood ties or shared history. It's about who chooses to stay, who chooses to see you, and who chooses to support the person you are becoming. Over the months, I built a family of my own, not one defined by obligation or pain, but by genuine care and mutual respect. Emma, my steadfast friend, stood by me through every twist and turn. New friends, people who valued me for my kindness, my strength, and my spirit, filled the spaces that once felt empty. These relationships became my sanctuary, a chosen family where I was free to be myself without fear of judgment or rejection. I often found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here, the heartbreak, the fights, the nights of doubt and despair. Each scar was a lesson etched deep in my soul, teaching me that self-love isn't selfish, that boundaries are acts of courage, and that sometimes the most profound healing comes from stepping away rather than holding on too tight. In quiet moments, I shared my story, not just for catharsis, but to reach others who might be struggling with similar wounds. I wanted them to know that it's okay to choose yourself, that freedom doesn't mean you failed, and that peace is possible even after the darkest storms. As I sat by the window, the sky painted in hues of pink and gold, I felt a calmness settle over me. Hope blossomed quietly in my heart, a reminder that life is an unfolding story, always offering new chapters, new beginnings. The future stretched before me, vast and unknown, but I was ready. Ready to embrace whatever came next with an open heart and steady hands, knowing that the love I needed most was the love I gave myself. The quiet moments of reflection remind me that sometimes the greatest strength lies in choosing peace over pain. Family isn't just about shared blood. It's about the respect, love, and kindness we offer one another. If we remember to listen with open hearts and set healthy boundaries, healing can begin even in the most fractured relationships. If this story touched you, I invite you to share your thoughts or experiences. Together, we can find hope and understanding in our shared journeys.